Hello, I am Teresa Malloy, the city's budget manager, and this presentation will cover the 2013 Financial Assessment Report, or FAR as we commonly refer to it. Each year, as part of the budget process, staff completes the Financial Assessment Report. This report includes economic data, city financial data for the most recently completed year, 2012 in this case, and 5-year projections, which include the proposed budget. The full report, which contains much more information than will be presented today, will be included in your Budget Council communication and will be available on the city's website. For the first time in several years, there were more positive economic trends than there were negative trends. Positive trends in 2012 include inflation dropped to 1.9% in 12 from 3.7% in 11. Unemployment in Longmont dropped from 7.5% in 11 to 7.3% in 12. The number of foreclosures filed in Longmont reached its lowest point since a high in 2009. The number of residential permits issued in 2012 was up. According to the Longmont Area Economic Council, there was a net gain of 198 primary employees in Longmont in 2012. Average annual wages in Boulder County was up 1.8% in 12. And the city's sales and use tax was up 2.22%. Only 2 of the economic indicators that are included in this report showed a negative trend in 2012. Property tax collections were down due to continuing decreases in assessed valuations, and LAEC reported an increase in the industrial office space vacancy. There was 1.6 million square feet on the market at the end of 2012 compared to 1.49 million square feet in 11. Total citywide revenues increased over $9 million in 2012. This increase was due to increases in charges for services, taxes, and licenses and permits, but was offset by a decrease in other revenues. Licenses and permits increased in 2012 due mainly to permit collections in the special revenue funds such as the Park Improvement Fund, the Transportation Community Investment Fee Fund, the Electric Community Investment Fee Fund, the Water Construction Fund, and the Sewer Construction Fund. Intergovernmental decrease in 2012 was due to revenues collected in 11 and not in 2012. Those included a $1.5 million state grant in the street fund for the Highway 66 and Hover intersection improvements that was completed in 11, a $1.2 million revenue from Boulder County for the firing range construction, also in 11. Total expenditures for 2012 increased by $13.9 million from 2011 amounts, which is equivalent to a 6.7% increase. Virtually all fund types were up. The enterprise funds were up due to increased cost of services and capital projects, mainly purchase power costs in the electric utility. While the special revenue funds were up overall, some funds increased while others decreased. These changes were mostly due to capital projects in 2012 in the Street Fund, the Open Space Fund, the TCIF Fund, the Parks Grants and Donations Fund, and the construction of the firing range, as mentioned previously. The general fund revenues increased $2.3 million in 2012. Total taxes made up over $1 million of that were due to sales and use tax, franchise fees, and franchise fees. Property taxes decreased $500,000 due to the declining property values. Other significant increases were seen in the charges for services category, which was up $500,000. This was due to increases in rec revenues as well as other charges that are in the general fund. The large increase in the intergovernmental category was due to non-grant federal revenue from the deployments of the wildland fires that occurred in 2012. General fund expenditures increased $6.5 million, or 10.7% in 2012. $3.2 million of the $4.4 million of the general government increase was due to Phase 2 of the Energy Performance Contract for energy efficiency upgrades in city facilities, and the rest was due to general operating increases and one-time technology-related expenses. The public safety increase was due to increased overtime in fire related to the wildland response and other general operating increases. Culture and recreation increase is due to general operating increases. As mentioned previously, the financial assessment report also contains 5-year projections for the major operating funds of the city. For the general fund, the proposed 2014 budget includes an increase in property tax collections of 1.3 over our projections for 2013. We expect this to remain flat in the out years. Sales and use tax revenues are projected to increase in 2014 as well. So just a note here that this 2.7% increase is greater than what you've heard about previously during our budget conversations, because this number represents the general fund portion only. You will recall that we have a financial policy which states that the 2% tax that gets split between the general fund and the public improvement fund is allocated such that more of the sales tax goes to the general fund and more of the use tax goes to the public improvement fund. And it's the sales tax that's actually increasing at a greater rate. The 1% decrease in 2015 reflects the shift of the sales and use tax that is currently going into the general fund back to the public improvement fund. Based on collections through July 2013, natural gas is expected to increase in 2014 as well as the out years. The combined impact from other franchise revenue is an 8.3% increase in 2014, mainly due to electric rate increases, followed by a 2.6% increase in the out years. Building permit revenue is projected to slightly decrease in 2014 due to lower building valuations. The total number of permits that are projected to be issued in 2014 is actually above the number of permits that are expected in 2013. But this increase is the incremental development revenue, which is one-time revenue and not reflected in the numbers above. Permit revenue is projected to increase in the out years based on projections from the Planning and Development Services divisions. And the parks maintenance fee that was in the general fund will be eliminated at the end of 2013. The general fund expenditure projections do not include any new personnel. We purposefully exclude any increase in FTE so that we can determine if we will have the ongoing revenues to support the current ongoing expenditures to maintain the same level of service to the residents of Longmont. For 2014, total salary and wages are projected to increase 2.3% from 2013 projected numbers. This is greater than the pay increases that have been included in the proposed budget because we are projecting to end 2013 below our budget for salary and wages. Pay and benefit line items, with the exception of employee insurance, are expected to increase 2% in 2015, followed by 3% for the next 3 years. Health insurance cost is projected to increase 9.7% in 2014 from projected expenses in 2013 due to increasing premiums. We project increases for health insurance of 5% in the out years. Other operating and maintenance costs historically increase anywhere from 0% to 3%, depending on the expenditure type. One-time expenses, again, are not included in the projections that we make, since the city's policy is to use one-time revenues, or in this case, fund balance, to cover one-time expenses. The proposed 2014 budget includes a use of $1.9 million of fund balance for one-time expenses. The future projections for ongoing revenue and expenses shown previously results in deficits between $1.4 million in 2015 to more than $3.8 million by 2018. Contributing to these deficits is the anticipated readjustment back to the 85-15 split for the sales tax between the general fund and the public improvement fund in 2015. What is not included in these numbers is any continued revenue loss from adjustments made to our administrative transfer fees. Again, these numbers do not include any new FTE or increase to service levels or any one-time expenses. Each year that we have put the FAR together, these numbers show a deficit, but through a variety of measures, we continue to adopt a balanced budget. The next few slides are based on information prior to the flood event and could very well change as we move into the cleanup and restoration phases. Projections for the water fund show that it will meet the minimum reserve requirements in each of the 5 years. Rate increases of 4% in 2013 were previously approved by Council. It is anticipated that rate increases of 5% in 2015 and 3% in 16 will be needed to meet expenses. Projections for the sewer fund show that it will also meet the minimum reserve requirements in each of the 5 years due to rate increases. The city will be going out to voters to seek approval for an additional bond issuance in November to fund regulatory improvements at the wastewater treatment plant. The rate increases are necessary to fund the ongoing debt service and the critical capital improvements. Even though we have now combined the electric and telecom funds into the electric and broadband fund, the electric utility continues to have a reserve requirement that only pertains to the electric utility. So projections for the electric utility show that it will meet the minimum reserve requirement in each of the 5 years. In 2008, Council adopted a reserve designated to address normal operating costs, multi-year capital plans, and unanticipated needs. An overall rate increase of 5% is included in the proposed budget. However, that has not been adopted by Council yet. There are no anticipated rate increases needed for 15 or 16. Projections for the sanitation fund show that it will meet the minimum reserve requirement in each of the 5 years. Rate increases for 2014 and 2016 were approved by Council in 2011 and are shown on this slide. Projections for the storm drainage fund show that it will meet the minimum reserve requirements in each of the 5 years. Staff completed the master plan update and is currently working on the update to the rate study. Rate increases are anticipated in order to fund the projects that were identified in the master plan. Currently identified was $28 million of unfunded drainage projects. This is one of the areas that will potentially change the most significantly as we continue to evaluate infrastructure replacement due to the flooding. The extension of the street fund tax approved by voters in November of 2009 put this fund in a position to meet the minimum reserve requirement through 16. The tax is set to expire at the end of 16 and will require voter approval to extend it. You will notice that beginning in 2017, we fall well below our ending working capital. Will show a negative ending working capital and fall well below our 6% reserve requirements. And finally, the Public Safety Fund was created in 2006, implemented in 2007, for the purpose of enhancing public safety services. Due to revenue constraints, we have not been able to hire the FTE that was outlined at the time of the ballot initiative, but we have been able to add a total of 41.38 FTE to enhance needed public safety services. This fund is projected to be well above the 8% reserve requirements in each of the 5 years. And in conclusion, revenue growth is very critical for our general fund in order to maintain increased level of service, to maintain or increase level of services. One of the things that will need to be considered is that shift between the general fund and the public improvement fund, the sales and use tax shift. The policy regarding the allocation of the sales and use tax has been successful in stabilizing revenue swings, and that's because more of the less volatile sales tax goes into the general fund, while more of the more volatile use tax goes into the public improvement fund. And our ability to make adjustments or reduce expenditures in the public improvement fund is much easier than it is in the general fund. Our 2015 budget process will continue to be a challenge as we move forward. And one of the things that is key will be the structural alignment of ongoing revenues and expenses. Again, we're going to implement the prioritization process, and it will be used over the next few years to achieve this alignment in the general fund. The financial assessment report contains all the details of the numbers that I have presented today, as well as much more additional information, and it can be found in your council packet as well as on the city's website. This concludes the presentation of the 2013 FAR. Thank you for your time.